Okay, we're here to look at one of our duct fittings, the radius throat, radius heel elbow. So this is our typical shop drawing that we would get. We'd start with a blueprint and would have all our system and fittings in there, and those would get individually pulled out of the blueprint to go on to a shop drawing that would indicate all the details that we needed to make the part. And you can see it's fairly minimal of details, but this is pretty standard. And what we see is we have a 4x6 opening that's 4" by 6" with a 4" TR, which is the throat radius. So the radius in this part right here is 4 inches. Okay. The number here, and it's standard with any ductwork, is the first number that we're given is the number that we see in the view of the drawing. So the 4 is the dimension here. And that's always the case. When we see the first number is what we see. The 6 becomes the depth of the fitting, which we can't see in this view. So if we look at an example of that elbow, here we go. We just see the cheek portion, which is what we see right here. We have the throat, the inside, and the heel is the outside. So it takes 2 cheeks to make up any elbow. And the throat is on the inside here. The heel is on the outside. And if we look at that, the 4 is here. And the 6 is going this way. So that's the depth that we don't see. Okay? So that's given here. And what our goal is here is to come up with the blank sizes, or the rectangular pieces that will make up this part, and then do our layout or the drawing on the piece to make it. So if we have our original starting point, just our dimensions here, and we need to find, we'll start with the cheek. So I'll indicate over here CH for cheek. And I want to come up with the X by Y, or the 2 sizes that make up that blank. So I'm looking at a part that's kind of going all the way around this piece. How big does it take to shear a piece of metal, or in our case, draw a piece of paper? How big should I draw the rectangle to make it? So if I start here and I want to get all the way across to the other side, I know that I'm 4 here. And I know that I'm 4 here. Okay, so that gives me 8 all the way across. And because it's a symmetrical fitting, there's no change on the other side. And we know that because there's no dimensions over here. If there's no dimensions, it's the same. So it's 4x6 over on this end as well. 4x6 here. We're going to go the same this way, 4 and 4 again. So our cheek size is 8x8. And that gets us our blank. Of course, we're going to need 2 of those because we have 2 cheeks. The throat, we have to find the length of this arc here. And if we go back to our sample, we have to find the distance of the metal from end to end here. Okay, so that's merely a circumference formula, pi times diameter. And we're, in this case, using 1/4 of it. But we're going to use our arc length formula, which is any angle divided by 360 will give us the portion of this arc here. So what we're given off the bat is the radius, so we know it's a 4" radius. And we know that it's 90 degrees. Even though it's not given as an angle, if it was something like 85 degrees, that would have to be written down. Okay, if it wasn't there, we assume that it's 90. So we're going to use our pi times diameter as circumference, and we're going to add on our angle divided by 360 to get the portion, or 90 over 360 in our case. So we have our radius, which is 4, And because that's a radius and we need a diameter, we're going to multiply it by 2. And then times pi. And then times 90 divided by 360. That's going to give us our length here. In our case, 6 5/16. So we have the one dimension now of that part. We have the length or the circumference. Okay, so we've gone and we've calculated this one. The next dimension for our blank size is going to be the width. How wide is the part here? And if we go back to our original drawing, we know it's 6 inches deep in this view. So both the heel and throat are going to be by 6 inches on our blank size. So we're going to calculate this number out here. And we came up with 6 5/16 by 6. And that's for the throat section. For the heel, it's the same. Again, it's a portion of an arc. It's just a larger arc. It's still a circumference calculation, so we're still using pi times diameter as our base formula, and then we add in the arc length to that. So now we're going all the way to the outside, to the heel. So our radius becomes 4 plus 4, or 8 inches. So 8 times 2 times pi times 90 over 360 for that one. And again, by 6 inches. Our depth, we have no seams on this fitting. It's just merely a welded or connected in some manner. We don't need seams, most oftenly a welded fitting. So we don't need to add anything extra. So both the heel and throat are the same width to keep the fitting even across. Okay, so now we got our blank sizes. Now we're ready to do our layout. Or if we were in the shop, we'd go and shear out all our parts. Okay, so let's draw up our blank size. Now, if we look at our cheek first, this is my 8 by 8. So I'm 8 inches here, 8 inches here, all the way across. I'm just sketching the dimensions. We'd use our drafting arm, but for this, I'm just indicating what our sizes are. We have some layout to do on our cheek. We have to swing the 2 arcs. For the heel and throat, it's really, we're just going to roll it. We're just going to bend it up. We're going to form it into this arc, but there's no layout required at all on it. Okay, so we don't need any marks at all. So if we're shearing these parts, all we're going to do is put an arrow on it for indicating the direction of airflow, and then roll it. So we don't have to do any layout. So I won't draw it out in this case. So we'll just focus on the cheek. Okay, I got my 8 by 8 blank, and I know that my opening here is 4 inches, and that's always, the opening is always what I want to measure. Okay, I don't want to worry about the throat. I'm going to measure the opening because it's the most important part of the fitting. If we make any fitting, it's always the opening that's important. That's what's going to attach to the rest of the system, maybe an existing part or whatever it may be. The components that connect to it are going to be made up separately perhaps. And it's very important that they're all the same dimension. If this throat was off by 1/2 inch or 1/4 inch, it'll probably still work in the system. It's not a throwaway, but if anything here is off by that much, 1/2 inch, 1/4 inch, it's garbage. It's not going to work. So I'm going to come from the lower left corner here, and I'm going to measure across my 4 inches. So I'd be from here coming across my 4, and I'm going to put a little tick right here, just on my line. So I set my ruler up. There's my 4 inches there, and I'll just get that one put in place. So that's all I need. That's all the measuring I'm going to do now. Everything else is there. Okay. So next I'm going to take my compass, And I'm going to set up to swing my arcs. Now, if we look back at our shop drawing, we see when I drew in the lines in the right corner here, those two cross points are where it's actually 90 degrees. That's our radius point, is where those two lines cross there, which is the same point here, right in the corner. So I take my dividers, my compass, and I pin it on the corner, and I open them up until it hits my mark that I've made for my throat. I set up and I swing that arc, just like that. Okay? Same radius point. I'm going to, again, pin my dividers down, and I'm going to stretch out until the very outside, or the heel section. That looks good there. Again, set it in place. Here we go. And there's my heel drawn. And that's all of our layout for this fitting. Again, 2 cheeks, so we do this twice. And then our heel and throat, we've cut the blanks. We don't need any layout done on those. So we're all complete, ready to cut out and form our parts. Okay, radius throat, radius heel elbow.